The night Ethan Cole saw his dead wife standing on stage at a Billionaire's gala, he thought grief had finally broken his mind. But when the powerful woman worth $3 billion chased him into the rain and whispered that his late wife might have been her missing twin sister, he realized something far more dangerous than madness was about to destroy the fragile life he'd built for his daughter. If you want to see how far a broken father will go to protect his child from a conspiracy that stole his wife's entire identity, stay with me until the end. And hit that like button and comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The ballroom smelled like champagne and money Ethan Cole would never touch in his lifetime. He stood near the back wall in a suit jacket his best friend Marcus had practically forced onto his shoulders 2 hours earlier, watching wealthy strangers glide across marble floors under chandeliers that probably cost more than his yearly rent. Everything about this place felt wrong. The music was too smooth. The laughter was too rehearsed. Even the air tasted expensive. "You need to get out more," Marcus had said that afternoon, blocking Ethan's front door like a man on a mission. "When's the last time you did something that wasn't work or Lily's school pickup?" Ethan hadn't answered because they both knew the truth. 3 years. 3 years since the accident that took his wife Sarah. 3 years of waking up alone, working construction jobs that barely covered bills, and pretending he wasn't drowning every single day. "It's a charity gala," Marcus continued, dangling 2 tickets like bait. "Free food. Open bar. You don't even have to talk to anyone. Just stand there and pretend to be human for 3 hours." Now, surrounded by people who thought $500 steaks were casual Tuesday dinners, Ethan regretted everything. He checked his phone for the 4th time in 10 minutes. The babysitter had sent a photo of Lily curled up on the couch with her stuffed rabbit, already asleep. Safe. The knot in his chest loosened slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice boomed across the ballroom, and the crowd began to quiet. "Please welcome the founder and CEO of Sinclair Global Industries, Vanessa Sinclair." Polite applause rippled through the room. Ethan glanced toward the stage without much interest, already planning his escape route through the side exit. Then the woman stepped into the spotlight, and the entire world stopped. Ethan's phone slipped from his hand and clattered against the floor. She wore a dark blue gown that looked like it had been sewn from midnight itself, her hair pulled back in a way that exposed the elegant line of her neck. But none of that mattered. What mattered was her face. Sarah's face. The same sharp jawline. The same slight arch in her eyebrows. The same small dimple on her left cheek that only appeared when she smiled, which she was doing right now as she addressed the crowd with the kind of confidence Sarah never had, but somehow should have possessed. Ethan couldn't breathe. This wasn't possible. Sarah was gone. He'd held her hand in the hospital. He'd watched them lower her casket into the ground, while Lily cried so hard she threw up on his shoes. He'd spent 3 years learning how to function as half a person. "Our mission tonight," the woman on stage continued, her voice warm and commanding, "is to raise funds for children who've lost parents to preventable accidents, because no child should grow up without the guidance and love they deserve." The irony felt like a knife twisting in his ribs. Ethan bent down, grabbed his phone with shaking hands, and turned toward the exit. He had to leave. Now. Before whatever fragile control he had left shattered in front of 500 strangers. "Ethan." Marcus appeared at his elbow, frowning. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I need to go." His voice came out hoarse, unfamiliar. "What? We just got here. I can't be here." Ethan pushed past a couple holding champagne flutes, ignoring Marcus calling after him. His heart slammed against his ribs. The walls felt too close. The music was too loud. Everything was wrong. Wrong. He made it to the lobby, then through the glass doors, and finally into the cold night air. Rain had started falling while he was inside, light and misting, turning the city lights into blurred halos. He braced his hands on his knees and tried to remember how to breathe like a normal person. 3 years. 3 years of holding himself together with duct tape and denial, and one stranger's face had torn it all apart in under 30 seconds. "Excuse me." Ethan's entire body went rigid. That voice. Calm. Precise. Nothing like Sarah's, which had been softer, more hesitant. But the tone landed in his chest like a punch anyway. He straightened slowly and turned around. Vanessa Sinclair stood 5 feet away, rain beginning to dampen her dark hair, her expression unreadable. Up close, the differences were more obvious. Her eyes were harder. Her posture was straighter. She carried herself like someone who'd spent her entire life being looked at and had learned to stare back twice as hard. But the shape of her face, the curve of her mouth, the exact placement of that dimple. "You left in a hurry." She tilted her head slightly. "Did I say something wrong?" Ethan's throat felt like sandpaper. "No." "Then why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" The word hit too close. He took a step back. "I'm fine. I just needed air." "You dropped your phone, left your friend mid-sentence, and nearly knocked over a waiter on your way out." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "That's not needing air. That's panic." "I don't know you." "No," she agreed. "But you looked at me like you did." The rain picked up, drumming against the awning above them. Somewhere in the distance, a car horn blared. Ethan's hands curled into fists at his sides because the alternative was grabbing the stranger by the shoulders and demanding to know why she had his dead wife's face. "I'm sorry," he managed. "I made a mistake. You reminded me of someone." Vanessa studied him with an intensity that made him want to run again. Then she did something unexpected. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen a few times, and turned it toward him. The image showed a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, standing beside an older woman in what looked like a formal family portrait. The girl had Vanessa's face. The woman beside her had cold eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "That's me," Vanessa said quietly. "With my mother, 22 years ago, before she died." Ethan didn't understand what he was supposed to be seeing. Vanessa swiped to the next photo. This one was older, grainier, like it had been copied from a newspaper. It showed 2 identical infant girls lying side by side in a hospital bassinet. "I had a twin sister," Vanessa continued, her voice careful now, controlled. "She disappeared when we were 6 months old. My family told me she died, but 5 years ago, I found documents proving that was a lie. She didn't die. She was given away." Ethan's chest tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you looked at me tonight like you'd seen her." Vanessa lowered her phone. "And I've spent the last decade searching for any trace of my sister. So if you know something, if the person I reminded you of is somehow connected to my family, I need to know." The world tilted sideways. Ethan thought about Sarah, who'd grown up in foster care and never knew her birth parents. Sarah, who used to joke that she was probably abandoned because she wasn't worth keeping. Sarah, who had the same face as the billionaire standing in front of him right now. "What was your sister's name?" he asked, even though he already knew the answer wouldn't match. She didn't have one. Not officially. The records were erased. Vanessa's jaw tightened. "My family has a history of making inconvenient people disappear." "That's insane." "That's the Sinclair family." Vanessa's voice turned sharp. "We built an empire on real estate, offshore accounts, and buried secrets. My sister was one of them." Ethan wanted to walk away. He wanted to go home, check on Lily, and pretend this conversation never happened. But something in Vanessa's expression stopped him. Desperation. The same kind he saw in his own mirror every morning. "The woman you reminded me of," he said slowly, "was my wife. She died 3 years ago." Vanessa's face went very still. "What was her name?" "Sarah Cole. Born Sarah Jensen, but she didn't know much about her past. Foster system. No records before age 2. "How old was she?" "She would have been 30 this year." Vanessa inhaled sharply. "Do you have a photo?" Ethan hesitated, then pulled out his phone with numb fingers. He scrolled to one of his favorites. Sarah laughing at something Lily had said during a beach trip, her hair wild from the wind, her smile so bright it hurt to look at. He handed the phone to Vanessa. She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then her hand started shaking. "That's impossible," she whispered. "What?" "She looks exactly like me." Vanessa's voice cracked. "Not similar, not close. Exactly." "I know." Vanessa looked up, and for the first time since stepping outside, her composure fractured. Her eyes were too bright. Where was she from? She didn't know. The foster records were incomplete. She spent her whole life not knowing who she really was. What happened to her? Ethan's throat closed. Car accident. She was picking up groceries. Someone ran a red light going 60 in a 30 zone. She died before the ambulance arrived. Vanessa handed the phone back carefully, like it might break. I'm sorry. Yeah. Ethan pocketed the phone. Me too. They stood there in the rain, in two strangers bound together by a dead woman's face. Finally, Vanessa spoke. I know this sounds impossible, but if there's even a chance your wife was my sister, I need to find out the truth. Why? Because I've spent 29 years believing I was alone. Vanessa's voice turned fierce. And if she existed, if she was real and alive and had a life, I deserve to know what my family took from both of us. Ethan thought about Lily, who barely remembered her mother's voice anymore. He thought about the boxes of Sarah's things he couldn't bring himself to sort through. He thought about the nights he still woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. I can't, he said. I have a daughter. I can't drag her into whatever this is. Oi, Nariki. I'm not asking you to drag anyone into anything. Vanessa straightened, and just like that, the vulnerable woman disappeared. The billionaire was back. I'm asking for information, medical records, birth certificates, anything that might confirm a connection. Sarah didn't have those things. The files were lost or destroyed decades ago. But soon. Then let me find them. Vanessa pulled a business card from somewhere, Ethan didn't see where, and held it out. I have resources you don't, investigators, lawyers, access to records most people can't touch. If there's proof your wife was my sister, I'll find it. Ethan stared at the card. Vanessa Sinclair, CEO, Sinclair Global Industries. A phone number, an email address, a doorway into a world he wanted nothing to do with. And if you find proof? He asked. Then what? Then I'll know the truth. Vanessa's expression softened slightly. And maybe you will too. Ethan thought about Sarah's face in that hospital bed. The way she'd squeezed his hand even as the machine screamed. The way she'd whispered, "Take care of our girl." Like she knew what was coming. He took the card. I'm not promising anything, he said. I'm not asking for promises. Vanessa turned to go, then paused. Just one more question. Your daughter, how old is she? 6. Something flickered across Vanessa's face. Pain, maybe, or recognition. The same age we were when my sister disappeared. Then she walked back inside, leaving Ethan alone in the rain with a business card that felt heavier than it should. Oops. The babysitter was half asleep on the couch when Ethan got home, some reality show playing on mute. He paid her, thanked her, and waited until she left before locking the door and leaning against it like he'd just escaped something dangerous. Maybe he had. Lily's bedroom door was cracked open, a nightlight casting soft shadows across her sleeping face. She had Sarah's nose, Sarah's stubborn chin. In a few years, she'd have Sarah's smile too, and Ethan didn't know if that would destroy him or save him. He sat on the edge of her bed and brushed hair off her forehead. Hey, kiddo, he whispered. Lily stirred but didn't wake. Her hand curled around her stuffed rabbit, the one Sarah had bought her the day she was born. Ethan pulled Vanessa's business card from his pocket and stared at it in the dim light. Part of him wanted to throw it away, burn it, pretend tonight never happened. But another part, the part that still woke up some mornings convinced Sarah was in the kitchen making coffee, wanted answers. What do I do? He asked the sleeping 6-year-old who couldn't answer. Lily sighed in her sleep and rolled over. Ethan stayed there for another 10 minutes, then stood, kissed his daughter's forehead, and walked to the small office he'd converted from a closet. He pulled out the single box of Sarah's things he'd managed to go through. Old photos, a few pieces of jewelry, her driver's license. He found the photo album Sarah had started but never finished. Most of the pages were empty. She'd only managed to fill the first few with pictures from their wedding, Lily's birth, random moments she'd wanted to preserve. On the last page with photos, there was one Ethan had forgotten about. Sarah at 23, standing in front of the courthouse the day they'd gotten married. No fancy dress, no big ceremony, just her in a white sundress, holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers, smiling like she'd won the lottery. Ethan pulled the photo out and held it up to the light. Then he pulled out his phone and looked at the business card again. He typed out a message before he could talk himself out of it. "This is Ethan Cole. We spoke tonight. I found some photos. If you still want to see them, I'm willing to talk." He hit send and immediately regretted it. The reply came 30 seconds later. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. I'll send you an address." And Ethan, "Thank you." Ethan set the phone down and scrubbed his hands over his face. "I'm losing my mind," he told the empty room. But the photo of Sarah stared back at him from the desk, and her smile seemed to say, "Maybe. But maybe you need to." Bye. The address Vanessa sent the next morning belonged to a private office building in the financial district, the kind of place with security guards who looked like they could bench press small cars. Ethan felt ridiculous walking through the marble lobby in his work jeans and a flannel shirt, but the receptionist barely glanced at him before directing him to the 12th floor. The elevator opened directly into a waiting room that looked like it had been decorated by someone who thought furniture should cost more than most people's cars. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city. "Mr. Cole." Ethan turned. Vanessa stood in the doorway of an adjacent office, dressed in a sharp gray suit that probably cost more than his truck, but her expression was softer than last night, less guarded. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Yeah." Ethan followed her into the office, which was somehow even more intimidating than the waiting room. "I wasn't sure I would." "But you did." Vanessa gestured to a chair across from her desk. "That says something." Ethan sat, feeling out of place and underdressed. He pulled a folder from his bag, photocopies of Sarah's documents, the few they had, and set it on the desk between them. Vanessa opened it carefully, like it might fall apart. She studied each page in silence. The marriage certificate, the hospital records from Lily's birth, a grainy photocopy of Sarah's foster care intake form from when she was 2 years old. "This says she was found abandoned at a fire station," Vanessa said quietly. "No identification, no note." "That's what Sarah was told. And she never tried to find out who left her there?" Ethan shook his head. "She said it didn't matter. People who didn't want you once wouldn't want you twice." Vanessa's jaw tightened. She flipped to the next page and froze. It was the photo from the album. Sarah in her white sundress, smiling at the camera like the world was full of good things. "She looks happy," Vanessa said softly. She was. That day, at least. Ethan's throat felt tight. Sarah had this way of finding light in terrible situations. Even when things were falling apart, she'd find something to smile about. What about the accident?" Vanessa looked up. "You said someone ran a red light." "Yeah. Guy was texting. Didn't even see her." Ethan's hands clenched. He walked away without a scratch. Sarah died in the street. Vanessa closed the folder. "I'm going to find out who she was. And if my family had anything to do with her disappearance, I'm going to burn their world down." The intensity in her voice startled him. This wasn't grief. This was rage. "You really think your own family would abandon a baby?" Ethan asked. "I know they would." Vanessa stood and walked to the window, arms crossed. "The Sinclairs don't see people as people. We're assets or liabilities. My sister was probably a liability." "Why?" "Because there can only be one heir." Vanessa's reflection stared back from the glass. 2 identical daughters meant a contested inheritance. Easier to get rid of the problem before it became one. "That's insane. That's my family." She turned to face him. "My grandfather built this empire through intimidation and backroom deals. My mother perfected it, and when I took over, I had to decide whether to continue the tradition or burn it all down and start over." "Which did you choose?" "Okay." Vanessa's smile was sharp. "I'm still deciding." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. This woman was a stranger, a billionaire, someone who lived in a world so far removed from his own that they might as well be on different planets. But she looked at Sarah's photo like it mattered, like Sarah mattered. "I need to pick up my daughter from school in an hour," Ethan said, standing. "If you find anything, let me know." "Wait." Vanessa crossed back to her desk and pulled out a tablet. "I want to show you something." She tapped the screen and turned it toward him. The image showed a legal document, old and faded, with the Sinclair family crest at the top. Most of it was redacted, but one line was visible. Twin B, removal authorized. Placement, undisclosed. Status, erased. Ethan's stomach dropped. Twin B? Gim, oh, my sister. Vanessa's voice was barely audible. This document is 30 years old. I found it buried in my grandfather's private files after he died. It's the only proof I have that she existed. And you think Sarah, I think your wife was my sister. And I think someone very powerful made sure we'd never find each other. Vanessa set the tablet down. But they didn't count on you walking into that gala. They didn't count on me seeing her face in those photos. And they definitely didn't count on me having the resources to dig up every buried secret in this family's history. Ethan looked at the document, then at Vanessa, then back at Sarah's photo in the folder. What do you need from me? He asked. Permission to run a DNA test. On your daughter. Ethan's entire body went cold. No. If Lily is my niece, I said no. Ethan grabbed the folder and shoved it back in his bag. You want to chase ghosts, that's your business, but I'm not dragging my daughter into this. I'm not trying to drag anyone in. You don't know what it's like. Ethan's voice cracked. You don't know what it's like to watch your kid grow up without a mother. To answer questions like, why did mommy leave? When you don't have good answers, Lily's finally starting to be okay. I'm not going to rip that apart because you need closure. Vanessa's expression shifted. The billionaire mask slipped, and for a moment she just looked tired. You're right. I don't know what that's like, but I do know what it's like to grow up believing you're alone in the world. And if there's a chance Lily has family she doesn't know about, family who wants to know her, doesn't she deserve that truth? Ethan wanted to argue. He wanted to walk out and never look back. But he thought about Lily asking why she didn't have grandparents, asking why everyone else had big families and she just had him. I need time, he said finally. Take all the time you need. Vanessa handed him a different card, simpler than the last. Just a phone number. When you're ready, call me. Ethan took the card and left without another word. Wojtek. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat in the dark living room with a beer he wasn't drinking and stared at Vanessa's number. The smart thing would be to throw it away. Move on. Keep living the small, manageable life he'd built. But Sarah's voice was in his head, the way it always was late at night. Take care of our girl. And maybe, just maybe, taking care of Lily meant giving her the family Sarah never had. Ethan picked up his phone and typed a message. 1 DNA test. Just Lily. And if it comes back negative, you leave us alone. The response came immediately. Deal. I'll arrange everything. And Ethan, I promise I won't hurt her. Ethan set the phone down and finished his beer in the dark, wondering if he'd just made the best decision of his life or the worst. Either way, there was no going back now. The DNA test took 3 days to process, and Ethan spent every single hour of those 72 hours convinced he'd made a catastrophic mistake. He'd taken Lily to a private clinic Vanessa had arranged, sterile and quiet, where a nurse with gentle hands swabbed the inside of his daughter's cheek while Lily clutched her stuffed rabbit and asked if it would hurt. It's just like a lollipop stick, the nurse had said, smiling. See? All done. Lily had looked at Ethan with those wide eyes that were so much like Sarah's, it physically hurt. Why did I have to do that, Daddy? Just a checkup, kiddo. Ethan had lied, hating himself for it, making sure you're healthy. But I feel fine. I know, but sometimes we check anyway. Now, 3 days later, Ethan stood in his kitchen at 6 in the morning, staring at his phone like it might explode. Vanessa had texted an hour ago. Results are in. Can we meet today? He'd been awake ever since, drinking coffee that tasted like dirt and trying not to think about what those results might mean. If they came back negative, Vanessa would disappear from their lives and everything would go back to normal. If they came back positive, Ethan didn't let himself finish that thought. Lily wandered into the kitchen in her pajamas, her hair sticking up in 3 different directions. Is it Saturday? Yeah, kiddo. Can we get pancakes? Eek. Ethan looked at his daughter, who had no idea her entire world might be about to shift. Yeah, we can get pancakes. They drove to the diner they went to every Saturday, the one with the red vinyl booths and the waitress who always remembered Lily liked extra whipped cream. It was familiar, safe, normal. Ethan ordered coffee he didn't drink while Lily colored on her paper menu and talked about a girl in her class who could do a cartwheel. "I tried one yesterday," Lily said, not looking up from her drawing, "but I fell down." "You'll get it," Ethan said. "Just takes practice." "How long did it take Mommy to learn?" The question hit him sideways, the way they always did. Lily asked about Sarah less frequently now, but when she did, it always felt like reopening a wound that had barely started to heal. "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "I never saw your mom do a cartwheel." "Why not?" "I guess it just never came up." Lily frowned, like this was a personal failing on his part. "If I learn how, I'll show you." "Deal." The pancakes arrived, and Lily drowned hers in syrup while Ethan picked at his eggs and checked his phone for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Still just the one message from Vanessa. No details, no hints. His phone buzzed. "I can come to you if that's easier. I don't want to make this harder than it needs to be." Ethan typed back one-handed while Lily wasn't looking. "No, I'll come to you. This afternoon, Lily will be with a friend." The response was immediate, same address as before. 3 p.m.? Fine. He set the phone down and found Lily watching him. "Who are you texting?" she asked. "Just work stuff." "On Saturday?" "Sometimes grown-ups have to work on Saturdays." Lily scrunched up her nose. "That's dumb." "Yeah," Ethan agreed. "It really is." After breakfast, he dropped Lily off at Marcus's house, where Marcus's wife Rachel had agreed to watch her for the afternoon. Rachel was good people, the kind who didn't ask too many questions and always made sure Lily went home happy. "You okay?" Rachel asked quietly while Lily ran off to play with Marcus's kids in the backyard. "You look like you haven't slept." "I'm fine." "Ethan," he sighed. "I'm handling something. I'll tell you about it later." "Is it legal?" "What?" "Yes, it's legal." "Oh." Rachel crossed her arms. "Because Marcus said you met some billionaire at that gala, and you've been acting weird ever since. Marcus talks too much. Marcus is worried about you, so am I." She softened slightly. "Look, I know these past few years have been hell, but if you need help, I'm fine," Ethan repeated, more firmly this time. "I promise. I'll pick up Lily around 6, okay?" Rachel didn't look convinced, but she let it go. 6. "And Ethan, whatever you're doing, be careful." "Yeah," he said. "I will." The drive to Vanessa's office felt longer than it should have. Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, and his mind kept circling back to the same question on repeat. What if Sarah really was Vanessa's sister? What if Lily had an aunt she'd never known about? What if Sarah had spent her entire life believing she was alone when she'd had family out there the whole time? What if Ethan had just handed his daughter over to a stranger who had more money and resources than he could ever dream of? He parked in the same garage as last time and took the elevator up to the 12th floor, where the same receptionist directed him to Vanessa's office without a word. Vanessa was standing by the window when he walked in, her back to the door. She turned when she heard him, and for the first time since they'd met, she looked uncertain. "Thank you for coming," she said. Ethan closed the door behind him. "Let's just get this over with." Vanessa nodded and walked to her desk, where a manila envelope sat waiting. She picked it up but didn't open it. "Before I show you this," she said carefully, "I need you to understand something. No matter what these results say, I'm not here to take anything from you. I'm not here to disrupt Lily's life or try to replace anyone. I just need to know the truth." "Okay," Ethan said, even though nothing about this felt okay. Vanessa opened the envelope and pulled out a single sheet of paper. She stared at it for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she set it down on the desk and slid it toward him. Ethan didn't move. "Read it," Vanessa said quietly. He picked up the paper with hands that weren't quite steady. The document was technical, full of medical jargon and numbers he didn't understand. But at the bottom, in clear, unmistakable print, was a summary. Conclusion. The probability of a biological aunt-niece relationship between subject A and subject B is 99.7%. Ethan's vision blurred. He read the line again, then a third time. "She was your sister," he said, his voice coming from somewhere far away. "Sarah was your sister." Vanessa's eyes were too bright. "Yes." Ethan set the paper down before he dropped it. His legs felt unsteady. He sat heavily in the chair across from Vanessa's desk and tried to process what this meant. Sarah had family, real biological family, a twin sister who'd been looking for her, and she'd never known. She died believing she was alone in the world, and the whole time there'd been someone searching. "I'm sorry," Vanessa said, and her voice cracked. "I'm so sorry I didn't find her in time." Ethan looked up. Vanessa was standing very still, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something together. For the first time since he'd met her, she didn't look like a billionaire CEO. She just looked broken. "It's not your fault," Ethan said, because what else could he say? "Yes, it is." Vanessa's voice turned sharp. "I had resources, money, investigators. I should have found her sooner. I should have—" She stopped, pressing a hand to her mouth. They sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, Ethan spoke. "What happens now?" Vanessa lowered her hand. "That's up to you." "Don't give me that. You didn't go through all this just to walk away." "No," she admitted. "I didn't. But I meant what I said. I'm not here to take Lily from you. You're her father. That doesn't change." "Then what do you want, yeah?" Vanessa looked at him directly. "I want to know my niece. I want to understand who my sister was through the people who loved her. And if you'll let me, I want to help." "Help with what?" "Whatever you need." Vanessa gestured vaguely. "You're raising a 6-year-old alone while working yourself into the ground. That can't be easy." I manage. "I'm sure you do, but you shouldn't have to just manage." Vanessa leaned forward slightly. "Ethan, I'm not trying to buy my way into your life, but I have resources you don't. Let me use them." "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's family." The word landed hard. Family. The thing Sarah never had. The thing Lily barely remembered having. Ethan rubbed his hands over his face. "I need time to think." "Of course. Take all the time you need." Vanessa paused. "But there's something else you should know." Ethan looked up. "What?" "I've been digging into my family's records, trying to find out who authorized Sarah's removal and why." Vanessa's expression hardened. Someone went to a lot of trouble to erase her existence. Forged documents, falsified death certificates, the kind of thing that requires serious power and serious money. You think someone in your family did this on purpose? "I know they did. I just don't know who yet." Vanessa pulled out her tablet and brought up a series of scanned documents. "But I'm going to find out, and when I do, I'm going to make sure they answer for it." Ethan looked at the documents, all official-looking and stamped with legal seals. Why would they care about one baby? Because in my family, inheritance isn't just about money. It's about control. Vanessa set the tablet down. "My grandfather had very specific ideas about who should run the Sinclair empire. One heir, one successor, 2 identical daughters complicated that plan. So they just got rid of one?" "It's not the worst thing my family has done." Vanessa's voice was flat. "Trust me." Ethan didn't know how to respond to that. He stood, suddenly desperate to be anywhere but here. "I need to go." "Wait." Vanessa reached into her desk and pulled out a small box. "Before you leave, I want you to have this." She opened the box. Inside was a silver bracelet, delicate and clearly old. "This belonged to my mother," Vanessa said. "She gave it to me when I was 16. I want Lily to have it." Ethan stared at the bracelet. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because I don't even know if I'm going to let you see her again." Vanessa's expression didn't change. "I understand, but the offer stands. Whether you let me into your life or not, Lily is still my niece, and I want her to have something that connects her to the family she came from." Ethan took the box before he could talk himself out of it. "I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking." He left without another word, the DNA results and the bracelet weighing heavy in his jacket pockets. The drive back to Marcus's house passed in a blur. Ethan's mind was spinning, trying to fit all the pieces together into something that made sense. Sarah had a twin. Sarah had been stolen from her family as a baby. Sarah had died never knowing the truth. and now Ethan had to figure out what to do with that information. He pulled up outside Marcus's house just as the sun was starting to set. Through the front window, he could see Lily laughing at something, her face lit up with joy. Rachel opened the door before he could knock. Hey, she had a great time, wore herself out playing tag. Thanks for watching her. Rachel studied him. You okay? You look worse than when you dropped her off. Long day. Ethan, I'm fine, Rachel. I promise. He forced a smile. Is Lily ready to go? Rachel looked like she wanted to argue, but Lily appeared behind her, already wearing her shoes. Daddy! She ran over and wrapped her arms around his legs. We made cookies and Marcus let me help and I didn't even burn them. That's great, kiddo. Ethan picked her up. Even though she was getting too big for it, she wrapped her arms around his neck and rested her head on his shoulder. Are we going home now? Yeah, we're going home. On the drive back, Lily chattered about her afternoon, the cookies, the games, the cartoon they'd watched. Ethan made the appropriate sounds at the appropriate times, but his mind was elsewhere. Finally, Lily went quiet. Then, in a smaller voice, she asked, Daddy, are you sad? Ethan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Why would you think that? You have your sad face. I'm not sad, kiddo, just thinking. About what? Ethan considered lying. He'd gotten good at it over the past 3 years, spinning stories to protect his daughter from truths she wasn't ready for. But something in him was tired of lying. I met someone, he said carefully. Someone who knew your mom a long time ago. Lily perked up. Really? What's their name? Vanessa. Is she nice? Yeah, she's nice. Does she have pictures of Mommy? Ethan's throat tightened. No, but she wants to hear stories about her. Lily thought about this. Can I meet her? Maybe, someday. Why not now? Because grown-up stuff is complicated. Lily made a face. Grown-ups make everything complicated. Yeah, Ethan said. We really do. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat at his kitchen table with the DNA results spread out in front of him. He read through them again, slower this time, making sure he understood every word. Then he pulled out his phone and stared at Vanessa's number. He could walk away, pretend this never happened, keep living the life he'd built, small and manageable and safe. But Sarah's voice was in his head again, the way it had been since the night he'd met Vanessa. He thought about the bracelet sitting in its box on the counter, about Lily asking if she could meet Vanessa, about the fact that his daughter had family she didn't know about. He typed out a message. Lily wants to meet you. I'm not ready to explain everything yet, but maybe we can start small, coffee or something. The response came 5 minutes later. Whenever you're ready, I'll follow your lead. Ethan set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. I hope I'm doing the right thing, he said to the empty kitchen. The house didn't answer. The coffee shop Ethan chose was neutral ground, a small place near the park where he sometimes took Lily on weekends. Not too fancy, not too quiet, just normal. Vanessa arrived exactly on time, dressed down in jeans and a sweater that probably still cost more than Ethan's monthly rent, but at least didn't scream billionaire. She spotted them at a corner table and walked over, her expression carefully neutral. Hi, she said. Hi. Ethan gestured to the chair across from him. Lily was beside him, swinging her legs and eyeing Vanessa with open curiosity. You must be Lily, Vanessa said, sitting down. Lily nodded. Daddy says you knew my mommy. Vanessa's expression softened. I did, a long time ago. What was she like? Vanessa glanced at Ethan, who gave a small nod. She was brave, Vanessa said carefully, and kind. And she had a smile that could light up a room. Lily beamed. Daddy says that too. Then it must be true. A barista brought over the drinks Ethan had ordered, hot chocolate for Lily, coffee for him, tea for Vanessa. Lily immediately went to work adding marshmallows to her cup, her attention diverted. Vanessa looked at Ethan. Thank you for this. Don't thank me yet, Ethan said quietly. I'm still figuring this out. I know. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then Lily, oblivious to the tension, 'd, asked Vanessa, Do you have any kids? No, Vanessa said. I don't. Why not? Lily, Ethan warned. What? I'm just asking. Vanessa smiled slightly. It's okay. I just never found the right time, I guess. Oh. Lily took a sip of her hot chocolate, leaving a whipped cream mustache on her upper lip. Do you want kids? Vanessa's smile turned sad. Maybe someday. You should get some. They're fun. I'll keep that in mind. Lily turned to Ethan. Daddy, can I go play on the swings? The park was visible through the window, close enough to watch, but far enough to talk freely. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Stay where I can see you. I will! Lily grabbed her stuffed rabbit and bolted outside. Ethan watched her through the window, making sure she made it to the swings safely. Then he turned back to Vanessa. She's beautiful, Vanessa said quietly. She looks just like Sarah, I know. They both watched Lily swing, her legs pumping as she tried to go higher. I've been thinking about what you said, Ethan started, about helping. And I need you to understand something. I'm not interested in money. I don't want charity. And I don't want Lily growing up thinking she needs anyone's wealth to be okay. I understand. But I also can't ignore the fact that she has family now. Family that Sarah never knew about. Ethan's hands tightened around his coffee cup. So if you want to be part of her life, I'm willing to try. But we do this my way. Slow. On my terms. Whatever you need, Vanessa said. And if at any point I think this is hurting Lily, it stops immediately. Agreed. Ethan studied her face, looking for any sign of deception or hidden agenda. But all he saw was someone who looked as lost as he felt. Okay, he said finally, then we'll try. Vanessa's relief was visible. Thank you. Don't thank me, just don't screw this up. I won't. They sat in silence again, but this time it felt less awkward. More like two people trying to figure out how to navigate something neither of them had a map for. After a while, Vanessa spoke. I found something else. About Sarah. Ethan's chest tightened. What? Vanessa pulled out her phone and brought up a scanned document. This is from the hospital where we were born. It lists both of us. Twin A and Twin B. Sarah was Twin B. Ethan took the phone and stared at the document. There, in faded ink, were two tiny footprints side by side. They were identical, Vanessa continued, down to the fingerprints. The only way to tell us apart was a small birthmark Sarah had on her left shoulder blade. Ethan's breath caught. How did you know about that? I didn't. It's in the medical records. Vanessa looked at him. Did she have it? Yeah. Ethan's voice was hoarse. She did. She used to joke it looked like a coffee stain. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back quickly, but not before Ethan saw. I'm sorry, she said. I spent so long searching for her. And now that I know she was real, that she existed, She stopped, pressing her lips together. It's a lot, Ethan finished. Yeah. They both looked outside, where Lily had found another kid to play with, their laughter carrying through the window. She deserves to know the truth, Vanessa said quietly. Eventually. I know, but not yet. She's 6. She barely understands why her mom isn't here. I can't add this on top of everything else. When you're ready, then. Ethan nodded. When I'm ready. They stayed at the coffee shop for another hour, talking in careful circles around the elephant in the room. Vanessa asked about Lily's school, her friends, what she liked to do. Ethan answered, keeping things surface level but honest. When it was time to go, Vanessa walked them to Ethan's truck. Can we do this again? She asked. Ethan looked at Lily, who was already buckling herself into her car seat. Yeah, we can do this again. Thank you, Ethan, really. Don't thank me yet. We're just getting started. Vanessa smiled. A real smile this time, not the polished one she wore for business meetings. Still, thank you. She walked back to her car, and Ethan climbed into the truck. I like her, Lily announced from the back seat. Yeah? Yeah, she's nice, and she has pretty hair. Yeah. Ethan started the engine. She does. Can we see her again? Maybe. Please? Ethan met his daughter's eyes in the rearview mirror. We'll see, kiddo. Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. She went back to talking to her stuffed rabbit while Ethan drove home, his mind already racing ahead to all the ways this could go wrong. But for the first time in 3 years, a small part of him wondered if maybe, just maybe, it might go right. Over the next 3 weeks, Vanessa became a regular part of their lives in small, carefully measured doses. Coffee on Saturday mornings, a walk through the park on Sunday afternoons. Once, she showed up at Lily's school play and sat in the back row, and when Lily spotted her afterward, her face lit up like Christmas morning. Ethan watched it all happen with a knot of anxiety lodged permanently in his chest. Part of him was grateful for the help, for the way Vanessa seemed genuinely interested in Lily's terrible knock-knock jokes and her elaborate stories about playground drama. But another part, this part that had spent 3 years building walls around what was left of his family, wanted to slam the door shut before things got any more complicated. It was Marcus who finally called him out on it. They were grabbing lunch at a food truck near one of Ethan's job sites, eating tacos that dripped grease onto their hands while standing in the November cold. "So," Marcus said, wiping salsa off his chin, "you gonna tell me what's actually going on with the billionaire?" Ethan took a bite of his taco to buy time. "What do you mean?" Bonbons. Don't play dumb. You've been acting weird for weeks. Rachel says Lily keeps talking about some woman named Vanessa who knew Sarah. And last Sunday, I saw you at the park with someone who looked like she walked off the cover of a business magazine. It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated. Marcus balled up his napkin. "Look, I'm not judging. If you're seeing someone, I'm not seeing anyone. Then what?" Ethan stared at the half-eaten taco in his hands. He'd been keeping this secret for weeks now, carrying it around like a bomb that might explode if he set it down wrong. But Marcus was his best friend, the guy who'd shown up at the hospital the night Sarah died and hadn't left until Ethan was ready to go home. The guy who'd helped him figure out how to braid Lily's hair when YouTube tutorials weren't cutting it. "The DNA test came back positive," Ethan said quietly. Marcus frowned. "What DNA test?" So Ethan told him all of it, the gala, the resemblance, the investigation, the results that proved Sarah had been Vanessa's twin sister. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression shifting from confusion to shock to something close to anger. "You're telling me," Marcus said slowly when Ethan finished, "that Sarah had a billionaire twin sister, and you're just now mentioning this?" "I didn't know how." How about, "Hey Marcus, I found out my dead wife had secret family. That would have been a good start." "I know, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be real." Marcus ran a hand over his face. Okay. So what now? Is this Vanessa woman trying to get custody of Lily or something?" "No, nothing like that. She just wants to be in her life." "And you're okay with that?" Ethan threw what was left of his taco in the trash. "I don't know what I am. She's Lily's aunt. She's family. Sarah never had that. But I don't know this woman. I don't know if I can trust her." "Have you asked her what she wants?" "She says she just wants to know Lily, to be part of her life." "And you believe her?" "I want to." Ethan shoved his hands in his pockets. "But she's also investigating her own family for conspiracy and fraud. She's digging up decades-old secrets that powerful people clearly wanted buried, and the closer she gets to the truth, the more worried I am about what happens when she finds it." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You think Lily's in danger?" "I don't know. Maybe. Vanessa says she's being careful, but careful doesn't mean safe." "What?" "Then you need to be smart about this." Marcus gripped Ethan's shoulder. "I get why you're doing it, but if things start feeling wrong, you shut it down. You hear me?" "Yeah, I hear you." "Good. Because Lily's already lost one parent. She doesn't need to lose the other one because you were trying to give her something Sarah never had." The words hit harder than Marcus probably intended. Ethan nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. They finished lunch in silence, and Ethan went back to work with Marcus's warning ringing in his ears. That night, Vanessa called while Ethan was helping Lily with her homework. He almost didn't answer, but something in the way his phone kept buzzing made him pick up. "I need to see you," Vanessa said without preamble. "Tonight if possible." Ethan glanced at Lily, who was coloring a worksheet that was supposed to be about addition, but had somehow turned into an elaborate drawing of a castle. "Is everything okay?" "No. I found something. About the people who took Sarah away. Vanessa's voice was tight. And you need to hear this before I do anything about it. Ethan's stomach dropped. Can it wait until tomorrow? I don't think it should. He looked at Lily again, thought about calling Rachel for the second time that week, then decided against it. I can't leave Lily alone. Then bring her with you. Vanessa, I'll order dinner. She can watch a movie in another room. Please, Ethan, this is important. Something in her tone made him agree. An hour later, they were pulling up to an address Vanessa had texted him. Not her office building, but a high-rise apartment complex that looked like it charged more per month than Ethan made in a year. A doorman ushered them inside without question, and an elevator took them to the top floor, where Vanessa was waiting in the hallway. She looked different, tired. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore jeans and a faded sweater that made her look almost normal. "Thank you for coming," she said, then smiled at Lily. "Hey, kiddo, I have pizza and a movie with your name on it." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? Really, come on." Vanessa's apartment was massive and minimalist, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. She led Lily to a media room that had a screen bigger than Ethan's living room wall and queued up some animated movie about talking animals. "I'll be right outside if you need anything," Vanessa told Lily. "Okay?" "Okay." Lily was already settling into a couch that probably cost more than Ethan's truck. Vanessa closed the door and turned to Ethan. "We can talk in my office." He followed her down a hallway to a smaller room lined with bookshelves and a desk covered in papers. She gestured for him to sit, then pulled out a folder. "I've been working with a private investigator for the past 2 weeks," Vanessa said. "Digging into the adoption records, the hospital documentation, everything surrounding Sarah's disappearance." "And?" Vanessa opened the folder and pulled out several documents. "My uncle, my mother's brother, Richard Sinclair, authorized the removal. He paid off a hospital administrator, forged death certificates, and arranged for Sarah to be placed with a foster agency under a false identity." Ethan felt cold. Why? "Because my grandfather's will stipulated that the Sinclair fortune would be divided equally among all direct descendants. 2 daughters meant splitting the inheritance." Vanessa's hand shook slightly as she set the papers down. "Richard convinced my mother that one of us had died during childbirth. She believed it until the day she died. She never knew she had another daughter out there. So your uncle stole Sarah's entire life to protect his cut of the money?" "Yes." Ethan stared at the documents, rage building in his chest. "Where is he now?" "That's the problem." Vanessa met his eyes. "He's still on my board of directors. He still controls a significant portion of the company's assets. And until yesterday, I didn't have enough proof to remove him without triggering a corporate war. What changed yesterday?" Vanessa pulled out another document. "I found the original hospital records. The real ones, not the forgeries. They prove Sarah existed. They prove Richard orchestrated the entire thing." Her voice turned hard. "Which means I can destroy him." Ethan heard the certainty in her voice and felt something twist in his gut. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to expose him, publicly. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what he did." "And then what? You think he's just going to accept that?" "I don't care what he accepts." Vanessa stood, pacing. "He stole my sister. He robbed Sarah of her family, her identity, her entire life. And he did it for money. I'm not letting him walk away from that." "Vanessa." Ethan stood too. "Think about this. You're talking about going to war with a man who clearly has no problem destroying people who get in his way. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're about to poke a hornet's nest with a stick." Vanessa stopped pacing. "What would you have me do? Let him get away with it? I'm saying you need to be smart about this. You go public with this information, you're putting a target on your back, and maybe on ours too. I won't let anything happen to you or Lily. You can't guarantee that." Ethan's voice rose. "You said it yourself. Your family makes inconvenient people disappear. What's to stop Richard from deciding we're inconvenient?" Vanessa's expression shifted. "He wouldn't dare." "Why? Because you're rich and powerful?" Sarah was inconvenient and she disappeared. I'm not willing to bet my daughter's safety on the assumption that your uncle has suddenly grown a conscience. They stared at each other across the office, the tension thick enough to cut. Finally, Vanessa said quietly, "So, what do you want me to do?" Ethan didn't have a good answer. He wanted justice for Sarah. He wanted the man who stole her life to pay for what he'd done. But he also wanted Lily to be safe, and those two things suddenly felt mutually exclusive. "I don't know," he admitted, "but rushing into this without a plan isn't the answer. Or it? Garamas." Vanessa turned back to the window, her arms crossed. "I've been planning this for weeks." "Then wait a little longer. Make sure you have everything lined up. Make sure there's no way he can strike back. And in the meantime, he just gets to keep living his life like he didn't destroy ours. In the meantime, you make sure that when you do take him down, he stays down." Ethan walked over to stand beside her. "I get that you're angry. I am too. But anger without strategy is just recklessness." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "My mother spent her whole life grieving a daughter she thought was dead. She died believing that lie. I can't just let that go." "I'm not asking you to let it go. I'm asking you to be careful." Vanessa looked at him, and for the first time he saw real fear in her eyes. "What if I can't protect you?" "Then we'll figure it out together." The word together seemed to catch her off guard. She blinked, then looked away. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Too late. I'm already in this." Ethan managed a weak smile, for better or worse. Vanessa almost smiled back. "That's a terrible commitment." "Yeah, well, I'm not great at staying out of terrible situations." They stood there for another moment, the city lights glittering below them before Vanessa finally nodded. "Okay, I'll wait. But not forever. Sakim, itaskim, kamersako. I'm not asking for forever. Just long enough to do this right." Vanessa turned back to her desk and started gathering the documents. "I'll talk to my legal team. See what kind of protections we can put in place before I make a move." "Good. But Ethan?" She looked at him seriously. "If Richard finds out I'm digging into this, things are going to get dangerous fast. I need you to be prepared for that." "What does that mean?" "It means you might want to consider taking some precautions, changing your routine, being aware of who's around you and Lily." The knot in Ethan's chest tightened. "You really think he'd come after us?" "I think he's capable of anything, and I think you need to assume the worst." Ethan thought about Lily in the next room, watching her movie without a care in the world. He thought about the life he'd built for her, small and safe and predictable. He thought about how quickly all of that could be ripped away. "Maybe this was a mistake," he said quietly. Vanessa looked stricken. "What?" "Getting involved with you, letting you into our lives. Maybe I should have just walked away that night at the gala." "You don't mean that, don't I?" Ethan's voice cracked. 3 weeks ago, my biggest problem was paying rent on time. Now I'm standing in a billionaire's apartment discussing whether a corrupt executive might try to hurt my kid. How is any of this worth it? Because Sarah deserved better." Vanessa's voice was fierce. "And so does Lily. She deserves to know where she came from. She deserves to have family. She deserves the truth. What if the truth gets her killed?" "Then we make sure it doesn't." Vanessa stepped closer. "I know you're scared. I am too. But walking away now doesn't make you safe. Richard doesn't know you exist yet. But the moment I file anything official, he's going to start digging. And he'll find you whether we're working together or not." Ethan wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Ethan wanted, the moment those DNA results came back, he'd sealed their fate. "So what do we do?" he asked. "We stay smart, we stay careful, and we make sure that when the time comes, we're ready for whatever he throws at us." Ethan nodded slowly, even though every instinct he had was screaming at him to grab Lily and run. They collected Lily from the media room a little while later. She was half asleep, curled up on the couch with pizza crumbs on her shirt. "Did you have fun?" Vanessa asked, helping her up. "Uh-huh. The movie was good, but I'm tired now. I bet." Vanessa handed Lily her stuffed rabbit. "Sleep well, okay?" "Okay. Can we do this again?" Vanessa glanced at Ethan, who gave a small nod. Yeah, we can do this again. Ethan carried Lily to the elevator, and Vanessa walked them down to the lobby. At the door, she caught Ethan's arm. I meant what I said, she told him quietly. I won't let anything happen to you or Lily. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll do everything in my power to keep you safe. Ethan wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust that this was all going to work out somehow. But trust had never come easy for him, and right now it felt impossible. Just be careful, he said. I will. You too. Ethan buckled Lily into her car seat and drove home through streets that suddenly felt less safe than they had that morning. Every car that followed them for more than a block made his heart race. Every shadow felt like a threat. By the time they got home, Lily was fully asleep. He carried her inside and tucked her into bed without waking her, then stood in her doorway for a long time, watching her breathe. His phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Thank you for trusting me. I know it's not easy. Ethan typed back, I'm not sure I do trust you, but I'm trying. The response came quickly. That's all I can ask. He set his phone down and walked to the kitchen, where he poured himself a drink he didn't really want and stared at the wall. Marcus's warning echoed in his head. Vanessa's documents were spread across his mind, and underneath it all was the constant, gnawing fear that he'd made a choice he couldn't take back. The next week passed in a haze of normalcy that felt increasingly fragile. Ethan went to work, picked up Lily from school, made dinner, helped with homework. On the surface, everything was fine, but underneath, the tension was building. Vanessa called him twice with updates about her legal strategy. She'd hired additional security. She'd moved certain financial assets into protected accounts. She was preparing for a fight, and Ethan could hear it in every clipped sentence. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, everything shifted. Ethan was at a job site, replacing rotted beams in an old warehouse, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him step outside and pick up. Mr. Cole? A man's voice, smooth and professional. My name is Richard Sinclair. I believe you know my niece. Ethan's blood turned to ice. I don't know what you're talking about, he said carefully. Please, let's not play games. Vanessa has been asking questions about a matter that was settled 30 years ago, and your name has come up in those inquiries. Richard's tone was pleasant, almost friendly. I thought it might be useful for us to have a conversation. I have nothing to say to you. I think you do. You see, I understand you have a daughter, 6 years old, Lily. Is that right? Ethan's vision blurred red. If you go anywhere near my daughter, I'm not threatening anyone, Mr. Cole. I'm simply observing that you've found yourself in a complicated situation, one that could have consequences you haven't considered. What do you want? I want you to convince my niece to stop digging into the past. What's done is done. Dredging up old mistakes helps no one. Old mistakes? You stole a child. You destroyed an entire life. I made a difficult decision in a complicated time. Richard's voice hardened slightly. And I'm not interested in rehashing it. Tell Vanessa to drop this investigation, or I'll be forced to take steps to protect my interests. She's not going to stop. Then you'd better hope you're prepared for the consequences. Because when Vanessa pushes, I push back. And I assure you, Mr. Cole, you don't want to be caught in the middle when that happens. The line went dead. Ethan stood there in the November cold, his heart hammering against his ribs. He called Vanessa immediately. She answered on the first ring. Ethan? He knows. Richard knows about me and Lily. There was a sharp intake of breath. What happened? Ethan told her about the call. Every word burned into his memory. When he finished, Vanessa was silent for so long he thought the connection had dropped. Vanessa? I'm here. I'm just... She stopped. I'm sorry. I should have moved faster. Should have protected you better. What do we do now? Now we accelerate the timeline. I'm filing everything tomorrow. Board meeting, public statement, all of it. That's what he wants. He wants you to rush and make mistakes. I don't care what he wants. Vanessa's voice was steel. He threatened your daughter. That crosses every line. Ethan wanted to argue, but part of him agreed. Richard had made this personal the moment he mentioned Lily's name. What do you need from me? He asked. Pack a bag, you and Lily. I'm sending a car to your house in 2 hours. What? Why? Because I'm not taking any chances. You're staying with me until this is over. Vanessa, I can't just uproot Lily. Ethan. Her voice softened. Please. I can't protect you if I don't know where you are. And if something happened to Lily because I didn't act fast enough, she broke off. Ethan thought about Richard's smooth, threatening voice, about the way he'd said Lily's name like he already knew everything about her. Okay, Ethan said, 2 hours. Thank you. And Ethan, we're going to get through this. Yeah, Ethan said, even though he wasn't sure he believed it. We'll get through this, yeah. He hung up and stared at the warehouse behind him, at the job he was supposed to finish, at the normal life that was crumbling around him. Then he got in his truck and drove to Lily's school, trying to figure out how he was going to explain to his 6-year-old daughter that their entire world had just changed. Lily was on the playground when Ethan arrived at the school, hanging upside down from the monkey bars while 2 other kids cheered her on. She spotted him through the fence and waved, nearly losing her grip. Daddy, watch this! Ethan forced a smile he didn't feel. I'm watching, kiddo, but we need to go. Already? School's not over yet. I know, but something came up. Lily dropped from the bars and ran over, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders. The teacher on duty gave Ethan a questioning look, but he'd already signed her out at the office. He took Lily's hand and walked her to the truck, his eyes scanning the parking lot for anything that didn't belong. Are we going on an adventure, Assam? Lily asked as he buckled her in. Something like that. Where? We're going to stay with Vanessa for a little while. Lily's face lit up. Really? At her big apartment with the movie room? Yeah. How long? Ethan started the engine. I'm not sure yet. A week? Maybe. A month? Lily, I don't know. We'll figure it out. His tone came out sharper than he intended. Lily went quiet, picking at the strap of her backpack. Ethan immediately felt like garbage. I'm sorry, kiddo, he said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. I'm just stressed about work stuff. It's okay. But her voice was small. They drove home in silence. Ethan kept checking the mirrors, watching for cars that followed too long or drove too close. Every dark sedan made his heart race. Every person on the sidewalk felt like a potential threat. He was losing his mind. Richard had made one phone call, and Ethan was already jumping at shadows. At the house, he told Lily to pack her favorite things while he threw clothes into a duffel bag. She appeared in his bedroom doorway 10 minutes later, dragging a suitcase that was definitely too big for a few days away. What's all this? Ethan asked. My stuff. You said pack my favorite things. He looked inside the suitcase. Stuffed animals, art supplies, 3 different pairs of shoes, the blanket Sarah had made when Lily was a baby, and approximately 20 books. Lil, we can't take all of this. Why not? Because we're just going for a little while. You don't need 20 books. Yes, I do. What if I get bored? Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. Pick 5. That's it. 10. 5. 7. Fine, 7. But that's my final offer. Lily grinned like she'd won a negotiation and started sorting through her collection. Ethan left her to it and went to his own closet, pulling out the small fireproof box where he kept important documents. Birth certificates, social security cards, the deed to the house, insurance papers, Sarah's wedding ring, which he'd never been able to bring himself to sell or give away. He packed it all in his bag, then added Sarah's photo album and the folder of documents Vanessa had given him. His phone rang. Vanessa. The car's 5 minutes out, she said. Are you ready? Almost. Good. I've arranged a security detail. 2 people. They'll stay with you until you get here. Is that really necessary? After what Richard said? Yes. Her voice was tight. I'm not taking chances. Ethan heard something in the background, voices shouting, Where are you? At the office. Calling an emergency board meeting. More shouting. I have to go. I'll see you soon. She hung up before he could respond. Ethan found Lily still sitting on her bedroom floor, now down to exactly 7 books and her stuffed rabbit. She looked up at him with Sarah's eyes, trusting and uncertain at the same time. Are you sure everything's okay? She asked. Yeah, kiddo, everything's fine. We're just being extra careful. About what? Yeah. How was he supposed to explain this? That a man she'd never met had threatened them because of secrets that existed before she was born? That her dead mother had a family she never knew about? And that family was dangerous? Remember how I told you Vanessa knew your mom? He said carefully. Lily nodded. Well, some people aren't happy that Vanessa and I are friends now, so we're going to stay with her for a bit while she works things out. Pues, y casi son bad people? Ethan's chest tightened. Not good people, no. Are they going to hurt us? No, I won't let that happen. He sat down beside her and pulled her into his lap. I promise, kiddo, nothing bad is going to happen to you. Lily was quiet for a moment, then asked, Did the bad people know Mommy? The question hit him like a punch. Why would you ask that? Because you said Vanessa knew Mommy, and now there's bad people. So maybe they knew her too. Some 6 years old and already connecting dots Ethan wished she couldn't see. It's complicated, he said finally. But we're going to be okay, I promise. Lily seemed to accept this. She rested her head against his shoulder. Can I bring all 7 books? Yeah, you can bring all 7 books. A black car pulled up outside exactly when Vanessa said it would. 2 people got out, a man and a woman, both wearing dark suits and earpieces. They looked like they'd walked off a movie set. The woman approached the door first. Mr. Cole? I'm Agent Torres. This is Agent Kim. Ms. Sinclair sent us. Agent? Private security, Torres clarified. We're here to escort you and your daughter safely to Ms. Sinclair's residence. Ethan looked past them at the car, at his quiet street that suddenly felt exposed and dangerous. Is all this really necessary? Ms. Sinclair believes it is. And given the circumstances, we agree. Kim was already scanning the street, his hand resting near his hip in a way that suggested he was armed. Ethan thought about Richard's smooth voice on the phone and decided not to argue. Okay, let me get our bags. He loaded everything into the trunk while Torres helped Lily into the back seat. The little girl stared wide-eyed at the agents, clearly both intimidated and fascinated. Are you police? She whispered to Torres. Something like that, Torres said with a small smile. The drive to Vanessa's building took 30 minutes through rush hour traffic. Kim drove while Torres sat in the passenger seat, both of them maintaining a constant watch on the cars around them. Ethan tried to act normal for Lily's sake, but his hands wouldn't stop shaking. When they finally pulled into the underground garage, Vanessa was waiting by the elevator with another security guard. She looked exhausted, her hair coming loose from its ponytail, her blazer rumpled. Thank you for coming, she said as Ethan got out. Like I had a choice. Vanessa flinched slightly but didn't argue. She crouched down to Lily's level. Hey kiddo, remember the movie room? It's all yours while you're here. Really? Really. And I ordered Chinese food. I hope that's okay. Lily looked at Ethan, who nodded. Yeah, that's okay. Oh. They took the elevator up to Vanessa's apartment, which somehow looked different at night, bigger, more isolated. The city lights stretched out below them like a sea of stars, beautiful and completely indifferent to the chaos happening inside. Vanessa showed them to a guest room that was bigger than Ethan's entire living room. 2 beds, a private bathroom, a desk, and a window that overlooked the city. I'll let you get settled, Vanessa said. Dinner will be here in 20 minutes. She started to leave, then paused. Ethan, can I talk to you for a minute? He looked at Lily, who was already exploring the room. Stay here, okay? I'll be right back. Okay. Ethan followed Vanessa to her office and closed the door behind them. She immediately pulled out her phone and brought up a video call. A woman's face appeared, middle-aged with sharp eyes and graying hair. This is Margaret Chen, Vanessa said. My head of legal. Margaret, this is Ethan Cole. Mr. Cole. Margaret's voice was crisp. I understand you received a threatening phone call from Richard Sinclair this afternoon. That's right. Can you walk me through exactly what was said? Ethan repeated the conversation as best he could remember, Margaret taking notes on a tablet. When he finished, she exchanged a look with Vanessa. This changes things, Margaret said. Direct threats against a minor cross several legal lines. We can use this. How? Ethan asked. Richard just gave us grounds for an immediate restraining order and emergency injunction. If we file tonight, we can freeze his corporate assets and remove him from the board before he has time to react. Vanessa leaned forward. How fast can you move? I have a judge who owes me a favor. If I call now, we can have preliminary orders by morning. Margaret looked at Ethan. But I'll need you to file a police report about the threat. Are you willing to do that? Ethan thought about Richard's smooth voice, about the implications behind every word. Will that make things worse? It might make things more complicated in the short term, Margaret admitted, but it also creates an official record. If anything happens to you or your daughter, there's documentation of Richard's threats. That's not exactly reassuring. I'm not here to reassure you, Mr. Cole. I'm here to give you options. This is the fastest way to neutralize Richard as a threat. Ethan looked at Vanessa. What do you think? I think we don't have a lot of alternatives. Richard made his move. Now we make ours. Ethan ran his hands through his hair, and everything was moving too fast. A week ago, he was just a single dad trying to make rent. Now he was filing police reports against billionaires and hiding in a penthouse apartment with armed guards. Okay, he said finally. Let's do it. Oh, Margaret nodded. I'll send an officer to take your statement tonight. Be as specific as possible about what Richard said. Every detail matters. The call ended. Vanessa set her phone down and slumped in her chair. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what? For dragging you into this. For putting Lily in danger. For all of it. Ethan wanted to be angry. Part of him was angry, but mostly he was just tired. You didn't drag me into anything. I made the choice to let you into our lives. You shouldn't have had to make that choice. No, but here we are. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Vanessa asked, How is she? Lily? Confused, scared, trying to be brave because she thinks that's what I need. Ethan's throat tightened. She asked if the bad people knew her mom. Vanessa closed her eyes. What did you tell her? That it was complicated, which is a coward's answer, but I don't know what else to say. You're not a coward, you're protecting her respect. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like I'm letting her walk into a war zone. Then we'll make sure she walks out safely. Vanessa met his eyes. I meant what I said earlier. I will do everything in my power to keep you both safe. I know you believe that, but wanting something and making it happen are two different things. Before Vanessa could respond, there was a knock on the office door. Torres stuck her head in. Food's here, she said, and there's a Detective Morrison downstairs asking for Mr. Cole. That was fast, Vanessa said. Margaret doesn't waste time. Torres looked at Ethan. You ready? No, he wasn't ready, but he nodded anyway. Detective Morrison turned out to be a tired-looking woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She sat with Ethan in Vanessa's dining room while Lily ate fried rice in the other room, oblivious to the conversation happening 20 feet away. Walk me through the call, Morrison said, her pen poised over a notepad. Ethan told the story again, every word feeling heavier the more times he repeated it. Morrison asked clarifying questions, her expression never changing. Did Mr. Sinclair make any explicit threats? She asked when he finished. He said I'd better hope I was prepared for consequences. And he mentioned my daughter by name. But he didn't threaten physical harm directly. He didn't have to. The implication was clear. Morrison nodded slowly. I understand. Unfortunately, implications are harder to prosecute than direct threats. But this is enough for a restraining order, especially given the context Ms. Sinclair's attorney provided. What happens now? I file this report. Ms. Sinclair's legal team files for emergency orders. And we hope a judge agrees that Mr. Sinclair poses a credible threat. Morrison closed her notepad. In the meantime, stay here. Don't go anywhere without security. And if Richard Sinclair contacts you again, do not engage. Call me immediately. She handed him a business card. Ethan stared at it. Another piece of evidence that his life had completely derailed. One more thing, Morrison said. Does your daughter know what's happening? Not really. She knows we're staying here for safety, but she doesn't know why. Keep it that way if you can. The less she knows, the less she'll have to process if things escalate. If? Morrison's expression softened slightly. I've worked cases involving the Sinclair family before. They don't fight clean. Be prepared for that. She left a few minutes later. Ethan sat alone in the dining room, staring at nothing, until Lily appeared in the doorway. Daddy, can we watch a movie? He looked at his daughter, her face smudged with soy sauce, her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm. 6 years old, and still believing that the world was fundamentally safe because he'd told her it was. Yeah, kiddo, we can watch a movie. They ended up in the media room with Vanessa, who changed into sweatpants and looked almost human. Lily picked some animated adventure about a lost princess, and they all settled onto the massive couch. Halfway through, Lily fell asleep with her head on Ethan's lap. He stroked her hair absently, only half watching the screen. She looks just like her, Vanessa said quietly. Ethan didn't need to ask who she meant. Yeah, she does. Sarah would be proud of you. The way you're raising her, so you didn't know Sarah. I know enough. Vanessa pulled her knees up to her chest. She survived being abandoned as a baby, grew up in foster care, built a life anyway, got married, had a daughter. That takes strength. She was strong, Ethan agreed, stronger than me. I doubt that. They finished the movie in silence. Ethan carried Lily to the guest room and tucked her into bed, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight against her chest. He stood in the doorway for a long time, watching her sleep before finally forcing himself to walk away. Vanessa was in the kitchen, making tea. She handed him a cup without asking if he wanted one. You should try to sleep, she said. Not sure I can. I know the feeling. They stood there drinking tea neither of them really wanted, while the city hummed below them. What happens tomorrow? Ethan asked. Margaret files everything first thing in the morning. Emergency board meeting at 10. If everything goes according to plan, Richard will be removed from the board and his assets frozen by noon. And if everything doesn't go according to plan, but if Vanessa's hands tightened around her mug, then we adapt. That's not a plan. It's the best I have right now. Ethan wanted to push, to demand better answers, but he was too exhausted. He set his tea down. I'm going to try to sleep. Long day tomorrow. Ethan? He turned back. Thank you, Vanessa said, for trusting me with this. I know it's not easy. It's not about trust. It's about not having a choice. You always have a choice. Do I? Because it doesn't feel that way. He rubbed his eyes. Look, I'm tired and angry and scared, and I don't know how we got here. But we're here, so let's just focus on getting through tomorrow. Vanessa nodded. Get some rest. I'll be right down the hall if you need anything. Ethan went back to the guest room and lay down on the bed next to Lily's. He stared at the ceiling, listening to her breathe, and tried not to think about all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. He must have fallen asleep eventually because the next thing he knew, sunlight was streaming through the windows and someone was knocking on the door. Mr. Cole? Torres's voice. Miss Sinclair asked me to let you know breakfast is ready. Ethan checked the time, 7:30. Lily was still asleep. He got up quietly and opened the door. What's happening? He asked. Emergency orders went through an hour ago. Judge signed everything. Miss Sinclair is meeting with her legal team now. And Richard? Hasn't responded yet, but he will. Ethan thanked her and closed the door. He showered quickly and got dressed, then woke Lily. Morning, kiddo. She blinked sleepily. Are we still at Vanessa's? Yeah. Oh, I thought maybe I dreamed it. Nope, still here. Lily sat up, looking around the unfamiliar room. How long are we staying? I don't know yet, but probably not too long. I like it here. It's nice. Yeah, it is nice. He helped her get dressed. You hungry? Uh-huh. They found Vanessa in the kitchen, surrounded by papers and looking like she'd been up all night. She gave them a tired smile. Morning. I made pancakes. Well, Torres made pancakes. I supervised. Torres rolled her eyes from her position by the stove. I made pancakes while Miss Sinclair paced and muttered to herself. Lily giggled. They ate breakfast while Vanessa checked her phone on every 30 seconds, her leg bouncing under the table. When's the meeting? Ethan asked. 9. I moved it up. Vanessa set her phone down. Richard's attorney called Margaret an hour ago. He knows what's coming. What did he say? That we were making a mistake. That Richard has documentation proving everything he did was legal. Vanessa's expression hardened, which is a lie. But he's going to fight this anyway. Can he win? Not if I have anything to say about it. At 8:45, Vanessa stood and smoothed down her suit jacket. She'd changed back into CEO mode, all sharp edges and controlled power. I need to go, she said. Torres will stay with you. Kim is outside. If anything happens, anything at all, they'll get you out of here. Where would we go? Ethan asked. I have a secondary property outside the city. Safe house. You won't need it, but it's there if we do. She crouched down to Lily's level. You be good for your dad, okay? Oh, okay. Are you going to work? Yeah, boring grown-up stuff. Will you be back for lunch? Vanessa hesitated. I'm not sure, but I'll try. She straightened and met Ethan's eyes. He saw fear there, quickly masked but unmistakable. Be careful, he said. Always am. She left, and suddenly the apartment felt too big and too quiet. Ethan cleaned up breakfast while Lily played on the tablet Torres had given her. The morning dragged on. 10 o'clock came and went. Then 11. Ethan's phone rang at 11:30. Marcus. Where the hell are you? His friend demanded. I went by your house. You're not there. You're not at work. What's going on? Ethan walked into the other room so Lily wouldn't hear. I can't really explain right now. Try. We're staying with Vanessa for a few days. Something came up. Something came up? That's all you're going to give me? Marcus, are you in trouble? Does this have to do with that billionaire thing? Ethan sighed. Yeah, it has to do with that. And yes, it's complicated, but we're safe. Are you? Because you sound scared. I'm handling it. That's not the same as being safe. Marcus's voice softened. Look, if you need help, if you need somewhere to go, Rachel and I are here. You know that, right? I know, and I appreciate it, but right now we're okay. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. They hung up. Ethan stared at his phone, guilt twisting in his gut. Marcus deserved better than half-truths and deflection. But how was he supposed to explain any of this? His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Vanessa. Meeting is happening. Richard showed up with 3 attorneys. This is going to take a while. Ethan replied, Keep me updated. The response was immediate. Will do. How's Lily? Fine. Watching cartoons. Good. Try not to worry. Ethan almost laughed. Try not to worry. While Vanessa was in a room full of lawyers, facing down a man who'd already proven he had no problem destroying lives, he went back to the living room and sat with Lily, pretending to watch her show while his mind ran through every worst-case scenario he could imagine. At 1 o'clock, Torres's phone rang. She stepped away to answer it, her expression neutral. When she came back, her face was grim. What? Ethan asked. Richard filed a countersuit. He's claiming Ms. Sinclair's engaging in corporate sabotage and emotional manipulation. He's also requesting an emergency injunction against her. Can he do that? He just did. The board meeting is suspended pending a judicial review. Ethan felt the floor drop out from under him. What does that mean? It means this is going to take longer than we thought. Torres checked her phone again. Ms. Sinclair is on her way back. She'll explain everything when she gets here. Vanessa walked through the door 20 minutes later, looking like she'd been through a war. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smudged, and there was a coffee stain on her blouse. What happened? Ethan asked. Vanessa dropped her briefcase on the floor and sank onto the couch. Richard happened. He brought documentation supposedly proving that Sarah's adoption was legal and consensual. Birth certificates signed by both parents. Court orders approving the placement. All of it fake, but well-done fakes. Can you prove they're fake? Eventually, but not fast enough. The judge granted his injunction. Board vote is postponed pending an investigation. How long? Could be weeks. Could be months. Vanessa's voice was hollow. Richard knows how to work the system. He's going to drag this out as long as possible. Ethan wanted to hit something. So what now? Now we wait. And hope he doesn't make another move while we're stuck in legal limbo. That's it? That's the plan? Do you have a better one? Vanessa snapped, then immediately looked sorry. I'm sorry. I know you're frustrated. So am I. Ishar. Ichag. Lily appeared in the doorway, sensing the tension. Is everything okay? Ethan forced a smile. Yeah, kiddo, everything's fine, just grown-up work stuff. But Lily wasn't convinced. She looked between them, her small face worried. Vanessa stood. I need to make some calls. Torres, can you… She didn't finish the sentence. The lights went out. For a moment, they all stood frozen in the sudden darkness. Then emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the apartment in a dim red glow. Torres had her gun out instantly. Stay here. She moved toward the windows, speaking rapidly into her earpiece. Kim appeared from somewhere, also armed. What's happening? Ethan asked, his heart hammering. Power outage, Torres said. Could be building-wide, could be targeted. Either way, we're leaving. Now. Where? The safe house. Move. Ethan grabbed Lily, who was starting to cry. It's okay, kiddo. We're just going somewhere safer. I'm scared. It is bowl me. I know, me too. But we're going to be okay. Vanessa was already throwing things into a bag. Laptop, documents, her phone. How did they get to the building's power? I don't know, Torres said. But we're not staying to find out. Kim, take point. I'll cover rear. They moved toward the private elevator, but Kim held up a hand. Wait, the elevator's out too. Stairs, Torres said. Now, The stairwell was pitch black except for their phone flashlights. They descended quickly, Ethan carrying Lily while Vanessa followed close behind. 12 floors of stairs, their footsteps echoing in the confined space. They were on the 8th floor when they heard voices below them. Heavy footsteps coming up. Torres motioned for silence. They froze. The footsteps got closer. Then a voice, male and unfamiliar. Check every floor. They're here somewhere. Kim and Torres exchanged looks. Torres pointed back up the stairs, but it was too late. The footsteps were right below them. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. There! Everything happened fast. Torres pushed Vanessa and Ethan back up the stairs. Kim moved to intercept whoever was coming. Shouts echoed through the stairwell. Ethan ran with Lily pressed against his chest, her face buried in his shoulder. Behind them, he heard scuffling, a grunt of pain, someone yelling, "Down!" They burst through a door onto the 9th floor. Torres grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him toward a maintenance closet. In here! Now! They crammed into the tiny space, Ethan, Lily, Vanessa, and Torres. Torres locked the door and killed her flashlight. Outside, they could hear people searching, doors opening and closing, voices calling to each other. Lily was shaking. Ethan held her tight, one hand over her mouth to muffle any sound. In the darkness, he could feel Vanessa trembling beside him. The footsteps passed their door. Paused. Came back. The door handle rattled. Torres raised her gun, her breathing perfectly controlled. The handle rattled again. Then a voice. Clear. Moving to 10. The footsteps retreated. They stayed frozen in that closet for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. Finally, Torres's earpiece crackled. Building security is sweeping the floor. You're clear to move. They emerged into a hallway now swarming with actual police and building security. Kim was there, nursing a split lip, along with 3 men in handcuffs being led away. Who were they? Vanessa demanded. Private contractors, Kim said. Hired muscle. They're not talking yet, but I'm guessing we all know who sent them. Vanessa's face went pale, then red, then settled into something cold and dangerous. Get me Richard Sinclair on the phone. Now. Vanessa, Ethan said, maybe we should eat. No more waiting, no more playing by the rules. She turned to Torres. I want protection details on Ethan and Lily 24/7. I want every communication with Richard documented and recorded. And I want Margaret to file every charge she can think of. Attempted kidnapping, breaking and entering, conspiracy, all of it. Miss Sinclair, Torres said carefully, we should get you somewhere safe first. Fine, the safe house. But I'm not hiding, not anymore. Vanessa looked at Ethan, her eyes blazing. I'm sorry. This was supposed to keep you safe, and it almost got you killed. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. I knew Richard was dangerous and I underestimated him anyway. She crouched down to Lily, who was still crying quietly. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I promised your dad I'd keep you safe and I failed. I want to go home, Lily whispered. Vanessa's expression crumpled. I know you do. They were escorted out of the building by a small army of security and police. The safe house turned out to be a sprawling estate an hour outside the city, surrounded by gates and guards and cameras. It was beautiful, and it felt like a prison. That night, after Lily finally cried herself to sleep, Ethan found Vanessa standing on the back patio, staring out at nothing. We can't keep doing this, he said. I know. Lily's terrified. I'm terrified. This has to end. I know, Vanessa repeated. And it will. I'm going to make sure Richard pays for what he did today. And how many more people get hurt while you're making sure of that? Vanessa turned to face him. What do you want me to do? Give up? Let him win? And I want you to think about what you're actually fighting for. Is it justice for Sarah, or is it revenge? Does it matter? Yeah, it does. Because revenge burns everything down, including the people standing next to you. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. He sent people to kidnap your daughter. What am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. But I know that whatever you decide, it affects all of us now. So maybe, just maybe, you should ask what we want before you declare war. They stood there in the cold night air, two people bound together by circumstance and grief and choices neither of them could take back. Finally, Vanessa said, What do you want? Ethan looked back through the window at Lily's sleeping form. I want my daughter to be safe. I want to stop being scared every time a stranger looks at us. I want to go home. Okay, Vanessa said quietly. Then we'll figure out how to make that happen. How? I don't know yet, but I'll find a way. She wiped her eyes. I promise. Ethan wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that this nightmare had an endpoint, that they'd all walk away intact. But standing there in the darkness, with armed guards patrolling the perimeter and his daughter crying in her sleep, belief felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. The breakthrough came 3 days later from the most unexpected source. Ethan was in the safe house kitchen making breakfast when Torres appeared with her phone in hand, her expression somewhere between shocked and satisfied. One of the men we arrested is talking, she said. He wants a plea deal. Vanessa, who'd been working at the dining room table surrounded by legal documents, looked up sharply. What did he say? That Richard Sinclair personally hired them, paid cash, gave them explicit instructions to grab the girl and deliver her to a private airfield outside the city. Torres set her phone down. He's willing to testify, in exchange for immunity. Ethan felt his blood turn cold. They were going to take her out of the country? Looks that way. The guy doesn't know the final destination, but he has text messages, wire transfer records, and a recording of his initial conversation with Richard's intermediary. Vanessa stood abruptly. Where's Margaret? Already on her way. She'll be here within the hour. Ethan set down the spatula he'd been holding, his hands shaking. They'd almost lost Lily. Not just lost her to a kidnapping, but lost her completely, spirited away to some foreign country where he'd never see her again. Daddy? Lily appeared in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. You look sad again. He forced himself to breathe. I'm okay, kiddo, just thinking about boring stuff. Can we go outside today? I'm tired of being inside. Torres answered before Ethan could. Maybe this afternoon, when there's more light. Lily's face fell, but she didn't argue. She'd been quieter the past few days, more withdrawn. The terror in the stairwell had changed something in her. She didn't ask as many questions anymore, didn't laugh as easily. Ethan hated it. Margaret arrived exactly when Torres said she would, carrying a briefcase and wearing an expression that suggested someone was about to have a very bad day. Tell me everything, she said to Torres, not bothering with pleasantries. They moved to Vanessa's office while Ethan stayed with Lily, trying to keep her occupied with games and movies and anything that didn't involve thinking about why they were hiding in a mansion with armed guards. An hour later, Vanessa emerged looking different, lighter somehow, less like she was carrying the weight of the world. We have him, she said simply. Margaret says with this testimony, we can file criminal charges, attempted kidnapping, conspiracy, maybe even human trafficking, given the international element. How long until he's arrested? Ethan asked. Margaret's coordinating with the DA now. Could be as soon as tonight. Ethan wanted to feel relieved, but all he felt was numb. And then what? He posts bail and comes after us again?
Okay, Escalating.
Not this time. The DA is requesting remand, no bail, too much of a flight risk. Vanessa sat down beside him. Margaret also found something else. Richard's been moving money offshore for months, millions of dollars. When we cross-reference the dates with the investigation timeline, it's clear he was preparing to run. So he knew this was coming. He suspected. But he didn't count on one of his hired thugs turning on him. Vanessa almost smiled. Turns out loyalty is expensive, and Richard was too cheap to buy enough of it. Despite everything, Ethan laughed. It came out harsh and slightly unhinged, but it was genuine. Good. I hope they throw everything at him. They will. Margaret's making sure of it. That evening, Ethan's phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up.
Mr. Cole. Richard Sinclair's voice smoother than ever. I hear congratulations are in order. You've managed to turn one of my employees against me. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone.
If you're calling to threaten me again, I'm calling to offer you a deal. I'm not interested in deals. You should be. Because the alternative is watching this play out in court for years. Your daughter's name in every headline. Her face on every news channel. Photographers following you to school, to work, to the grocery store. Is that really what you want? Ethan felt sick. What kind of deal? I'll surrender my board position, liquidate my shares, disappear from Vanessa's life entirely. In exchange, you convince her to drop the criminal charges. Why would I do that? Because I'm offering you a way out. A clean break, no trial, no media circus, no years of appeals and countersuits. Richard's voice hardened. Or you can go to war and watch it destroy everything. Your choice. You tried to kidnap my daughter. I tried to secure leverage in a business dispute. Semantics. That's not semantics. That's a crime. We're out by Then press charges. Watch what happens. I have resources you can't imagine, Mr. Cole. Lawyers who specialize in making problems disappear. Contacts in law enforcement who owe me favors. Friends in very high places who value discretion over justice. Richard paused. But I'm willing to walk away. All you have to do is convince Vanessa to let me. She'll never agree to that. She will if you ask her to, because unlike me, she actually cares about your daughter's well-being. The words were casual, but the threat underneath was clear. Think about it. You have 24 hours. The line went dead. Ethan stood there, phone in hand, his mind racing. He could lie. Pretend the call never happened. Let the legal system handle Richard and hope for the best. Or he could tell Vanessa the truth and let her decide. He found her in the office, still working despite the late hour. She looked up when he entered. Richard called, he said. Vanessa's expression darkened. What did he want? Ethan told her about the offer. When he finished, Vanessa was silent for a long moment. He's scared, she said finally. The testimony must be worse than we thought, or he's planning something and needs time to execute it. Either way, the answer is no. I'm not letting him walk away from attempted kidnapping. Even if it means dragging Lily through a media nightmare? Vanessa flinched. We can protect her from that. Can we? Or are we just telling ourselves that because we want it to be true? What are you saying? Ethan sank into a chair. I'm saying I don't know what the right answer is anymore. Part of me wants to watch Richard burn, but another part just wants my kid to have a normal life again. Taking the deal doesn't guarantee that. No, but it might give us a chance. He looked at her. What would Sarah want? The question hung in the air between them. Vanessa stood and walked to the window, her arms crossed. Sarah spent her entire life not knowing who she was, not knowing she had family. She deserved better than that. I know, but she's gone. And Lily's here. And I have to make choices based on what's best for her, not what I wish I could do for Sarah. They're not mutually exclusive. Aren't they? Ethan's voice broke. Because from where I'm sitting, getting justice for Sarah means putting Lily through hell. And I can't do that. I won't. Vanessa turned back to face him, tears streaming down her face. So what? We just let him win? We let him leave. There's a difference. Is there? Because it feels like the same thing. They sat in painful silence. Then Vanessa said quietly, I spent 5 years searching for my sister. 5 years of investigators and dead ends and hoping against hope that she was out there somewhere. And when I finally found proof she existed, it was 3 years too late. I can't let the person responsible for that just walk away. Even if it costs you everything else? What else is there? This. Ethan gestured between them. Me and Lily. A chance at something that isn't revenge and anger and pain. Vanessa sat down heavily. You're asking me to choose, and I'm asking you to think about what you're actually fighting for. Is it Sarah? Or is it just not wanting Richard to win? The words were harsh, but they needed to be said. Vanessa looked at him with something like shock, then looked away. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe both. Maybe I've been conflating the two for so long I can't tell the difference anymore. Then figure it out. Because whatever you decide affects all of us now. Vanessa was quiet for a long time. Then she said, What would you do if the choice was yours? Ethan thought about Sarah, about the life she'd built despite everything, about the way she'd always chosen forward movement over dwelling on the past. I'd take the deal, he said. Not because Richard deserves to walk away, but because Lily deserves a childhood that isn't defined by trauma and courtrooms and journalists camped outside our house. And you think Sarah would agree with that? I think Sarah would do whatever kept Lily safe, even if it meant swallowing her pride and letting go of justice she was owed. He met Vanessa's eyes. She was good at that, letting go of things she couldn't change. I never understood it until now. Vanessa wiped her eyes. I hate this. I know, me too. He tried to take your daughter. I know. And we're just going to let him walk away. We're going to accept a surrender. There's a difference. Ethan stood. But it has to be your choice. I can't make it for you. He left Vanessa in her office and went to check on Lily, who was asleep in the guest room with her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. He sat beside her bed and watched her breathe, this small person who'd somehow become his entire world. The next morning, Vanessa called Margaret and told her to draw up the agreement. Richard's surrender was handled quietly through lawyers. He signed over his board position, transferred his shares to a trust, agreed to never contact Vanessa or anyone in Ethan's family again. In exchange, the criminal charges were dropped to misdemeanors with probation and a significant fine. It wasn't justice. But it was over. 2 weeks later, they moved back to Ethan's house. The first night felt strange, like they were playing at normalcy after living through a war. Lily ran through the rooms like she was rediscovering them, pointing out things that hadn't changed. My room is still here, she announced, as if it might have disappeared. Of course it is, Ethan said. And my toys are still here. They missed you, so Lily beamed and went back to exploring. Ethan stood in his small living room and tried to remember what his life had been like before Vanessa. Before DNA tests and billionaire conspiracies and armed guards in stairwells. It felt like a different lifetime. His phone rang. Vanessa. How's the first day back? She asked. Weird, but good. He looked out the window at his quiet street. Lily's happy to be home. And you? Getting there. He paused. Thank you for letting Richard walk. I know it wasn't easy. It was the right thing to do, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Vanessa's voice was softer than usual. I've been thinking about what you said, about Sarah choosing to move forward instead of dwelling on the past. You were right. I was so focused on getting revenge for what was taken from her that I forgot to honor what she actually built. A life. A family. You. Vanessa paused. She'd be proud of the choice we made, even if I'm not quite there yet. Ethan's throat tightened. She'd be proud of you too, for finding the strength to let go. I don't feel strong. I feel like I failed her. You didn't fail her. You found the truth. You made sure she existed in more than just our memories. That matters. Vanessa was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Can I still see Lily? I know we're not in crisis mode anymore, but I'd like to stay in her life, if that's okay." Ethan thought about Lily's face lighting up whenever Vanessa arrived, about the way she'd started talking about Aunt Vanessa, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Yeah," he said. "That's okay, more than okay. Thank you." They hung up. Ethan went to find Lily, who discovered her art supplies and was already creating something that involved approximately 50 different colors. "What are you making, Mazette?" he asked. "A picture for Vanessa? For her apartment, so she has something pretty to look at." "That's nice of you." "She's my aunt, right? That's what you said." Ethan sat down beside her. "Yeah, she's your aunt. So that means she's family?" "It does." Lily thought about this while she colored. Then she asked, "Is she Mommy's sister?" The question caught Ethan off guard. They'd been avoiding the full truth, keeping things vague and simple. But Lily was 6 now, old enough to start putting pieces together, old enough to deserve some version of the truth. "Yeah," he said carefully. "Vanessa and your mom were sisters. They didn't know about each other, but they were." "Why didn't they know?" "Because sometimes bad things happen that separate people, and your mom's family lost track of her when she was very little." "That's sad." "Yeah, it is sad." Lily went back to her drawing. Then, without looking up, she said, "I think Mommy would be happy we found Vanessa." Ethan's eyes burned. "Yeah, kiddo, I think she would be too." Over the next few months, they built something that looked almost like a normal life. Vanessa came by every weekend bringing books and art supplies, and once, inexplicably, a telescope that Lily became obsessed with. They had dinner together, went to the park, attended Lily's school events. To anyone watching, they probably looked like a family. Marcus noticed first, cornering Ethan one Saturday while Vanessa and Lily were feeding ducks at the pond. "So," he said, not subtle at all. "You and the billionaire, that's a thing now?" "It's not a thing." "Right. Which is why she's here every weekend and Lily calls her Aunt Vanessa, and you smile more than you have in 3 years. "I don't smile more." "You do." Rachel noticed too. "She says you look lighter." Marcus studied him. "I'm not judging. I'm just saying if it is a thing, it's okay to admit it. It's complicated. Everything with you is complicated." Ethan watched Vanessa show Lily how to make the ducks come closer with breadcrumbs. "She looks like Sarah. Sometimes I forget they're different people." "But they are different people." "I know, but it's still weird." "Weird doesn't mean wrong." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "Just don't let grief make your decisions for you. Sarah would want you to be happy." "How do you know what Sarah would want?" "Because she loved you, and people who love you want you to be happy, even after they're gone." Marcus headed back toward his kids. "Think about it." Ethan did think about it, more than he wanted to admit. The truth was, Vanessa had become important to him in ways that had nothing to do with Sarah. She made Lily laugh. She challenged him when he was being stubborn. She understood grief in a way most people didn't. And when she looked at him, he didn't feel like half a person anymore. But admitting that felt dangerous. Like betrayal. He was still wrestling with it when Vanessa showed up one evening without warning, her usual composure frayed at the edges. "Can we talk?" she asked. They sat on his back porch while Lily played inside. Vanessa stared at her hands for a long moment before speaking. "I've been offered a position in London," she said, "running the European division. It's a significant promotion, but it would mean relocating for at least 2 years." Ethan's stomach dropped. "When?" "They want an answer by the end of the month. Start date would be in 8 weeks." "Are you going to take it?" "I don't know." Vanessa looked at him. "Are you going to take—" "Part of me thinks it's a good opportunity, a chance to build something new. But the other part—" She stopped. "What?" "The other part doesn't want to leave you and Lily." Her voice was barely audible. "I know I don't have the right to feel that way. You're not mine to keep, but the thought of being an ocean away from the only family I have left makes me feel sick." Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd been so focused on managing his own feelings that he hadn't considered Vanessa might be struggling with the same thing. "What do you want?" he asked finally. "Honestly,
I want to stay. I want to keep coming over for Saturday dinners and helping Lily with her homework and pretending like this is what my life was always supposed to look like.
Vanessa's eyes were bright with unshed tears. But I can't ask you to factor me into your decisions. You've already rearranged your entire life because of me once. I won't do that to you again. What if I want you to stay? Vanessa looked at him sharply. What? What if I want you to stay? Ethan repeated, his heart pounding. Not for Lily. Not because of Sarah. But because somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, you became someone I can't imagine not having in my life. Ethan, I know it's complicated. I know there's 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. But I also know that you make me want to be something other than a ghost walking through my own life. And I hope, maybe I do the same for you. Vanessa was crying now, tears streaming down her face. You do. You make me feel like I'm more than just a CEO or a Sinclair or someone defined by what she lost. You make me feel human. Then stay. Turn down the position, stay here with us. And then what? We try to build something real? You and me? Yeah, we try to build something real. Ethan reached for her hand. It won't be easy, and it definitely won't be simple, but I think it might be worth it. Vanessa squeezed his hand. What about Sarah? The question hung heavy between them. Ethan thought about his wife, about the life they'd built, about the way she'd always told him to keep living, even when living felt impossible. Sarah's gone, he said quietly, and I'll always love her, but she's not coming back. And I don't think she'd want me to spend the rest of my life alone because I'm afraid of moving forward. Are you sure? No, but I'm willing to try anyway. He managed a small smile. Are you? Vanessa laughed through her tears. I don't know how to do this. I've never had a real family before. I don't know how to be part of one. Neither do I, not anymore. So we'll figure it out together. That's a terrible plan. All my plans are terrible. You'll get used to it. Vanessa kissed him then, soft and tentative, and nothing like the way Sarah used to kiss him. It was different, new, its own thing, and for the first time in 3 years, that felt okay. 1 year later, Ethan stood in his backyard watching Lily run around with Marcus's kids, her laughter cutting through the autumn air like music. Vanessa was beside him, her hand in his, looking more relaxed than he'd ever seen her. They'd sold the safe house and bought a place together, something halfway between his old neighborhood and Vanessa's world. Lily had her own room with stars painted on the ceiling. Ethan had started his own architectural firm, focusing on affordable housing projects. Vanessa had turned down London and restructured her company to allow for remote leadership when needed. It wasn't perfect. They fought sometimes about money and boundaries and how much security was too much security. Lily had moments where she missed Sarah so much it hurt to watch. Vanessa still had nightmares about the stairwell, but they were building something, slowly, imperfectly, together. Daddy, Lily called out. Vanessa, come see what we found. Chose to school by Tracy's. She was standing by the garden holding a butterfly that had landed on her finger. Ethan and Vanessa walked over, and Lily showed them with the careful reverence children reserve for small miracles. It's beautiful, Vanessa said. It's like magic, Lily breathed. Then she looked up at them, her face serious. Do you think Mommy can see us? From wherever she is? Ethan crouched down to her level. I think she can. And I think she's happy we found each other. Me too. Lily watched the butterfly take flight. I think maybe she sent Vanessa to us, so we wouldn't be so lonely anymore. Vanessa's hand tightened in Ethan's. He looked up at her and saw his own grief reflected back, along with something else. Hope, maybe, or healing. The two things weren't so different anymore. Maybe she did, Ethan said softly. Later that night, after Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Ethan pulled out the photo album Sarah had started. He'd been adding to it over the past year, new memories to go alongside the old ones. Pictures of Lily's 7th birthday party, the day they moved into the new house, Vanessa teaching Lily to ride a bike. On the last page, he placed a new photo. The three of them at the park last month, caught mid-laugh by Marcus's camera. Lily was in the middle, one hand holding Ethan's, the other holding Vanessa's. They looked like what they were, A family that had been broken and pieced back together in a shape that was different but whole. Underneath, he wrote a single line. For Sarah, who taught us that love doesn't end, it just transforms into something new. He closed the album and set it back on the shelf beside the photo of Sarah in her white sundress. Both versions of the past, honored but not binding. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. You okay?
Yeah. He stood and pulled her close. I was just thinking about something Sarah used to say, that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry differently.
She was right. She usually was. Ethan kissed the top of Vanessa's head. But she was also wrong about one thing. She used to joke that I couldn't survive without her, that I'd be hopeless on my own. And I proved her wrong. I survived. We survived. He pulled back to look at Vanessa. Not because we forgot her or moved on from her, but because we learned that surviving isn't the same as just existing. It's about finding reasons to keep building, even when everything falls apart. Yeet. Vanessa's eyes were bright. Is that what we're doing? Building? Yeah, I think we are. They stood there in the quiet house. Two people who'd found each other through tragedy and chosen to create something better from the wreckage. It wasn't the life Ethan had planned. It wasn't the family he'd imagined. But it was theirs. Imperfect and complicated and real. And for the first time since Sarah died, that was enough. Outside, the city lights glittered in the distance, indifferent to human joy and human pain alike. But inside, in this house they'd built together, there was warmth. There was laughter. There was a little girl who knew she was loved by people who would fight impossible battles to keep her safe. There was family. And sometimes, Ethan thought, watching Vanessa smile at something on her phone, family was what you made it. Not what you lost, not what you wished you had, but what you built with the people who chose to stay. Sarah had been right about a lot of things, but she'd been wrong about one crucial detail. Love didn't end when someone died. It transformed. It became the foundation for new love, new life, new choices. It became the reason to keep going when going seemed impossible. And in the end, that was Sarah's real gift. Not the years they'd had together, but the strength to build something beautiful after she was gone. The courage to love again, even when loving hurt. The wisdom to understand that moving forward wasn't betrayal. It was survival. And survival, Ethan finally understood, was its own kind of honor.